it's Alex from You Should Craft, and today I'll show you how to crochet a plant hanger. This is the smaller version. It fits plants that are about 4 to 5 inches in diameter. This white pot is a 5-inch one that I got from Amazon, and it's pretty much the perfect size. I'll also have a video tutorial for a slightly larger one if you want to fit like an 8-inch pot. So I'll link that in the description below as well once the video goes live. But anyway, let's talk about what materials we'll need to make this crochet plant hanger. So I used a worsted weight cotton yarn. You can use any brand, but I used Dishy Cotton from We Crochet. And you'll need way less than one ball. It only takes about 50 yards to crochet this. You'll also need a G 4mm crochet hook. This is a Silver Odyssey from Furls Crochet, but any hook will work. You'll need standard notions like scissors and a tapestry needle. And then these are optional, but I decorated mine with wooden macrame beads. I got these from Amazon and I'll put the link below. And then I also added a tassel to the bottom of mine. The total yardage I shared with you, the 50-ish yards, that includes the tassel, but if you skip it, it'll use even less yarn. But I just use my gauge ruler as a template for my tassel, so you could totally just use like a piece of cardboard or some other 6-inch-ish thing that you have at your house. But anyway, let's start crocheting our plant hanger. So we're going to begin with what's called a magic circle. So place your yarn on top of your hand, wrap it around your 2 fingers, and then it'll make an X here. So put your hook under the bottom strand in the X, and then over the top strand, hook it on, and then pull it through. And that's how you start your magic loop. So I'll show you one more time again. So lay your yarn over your hand, wrap it around your index and middle fingers to make an X. And then insert your hook under the bottom strand of the X and over the top strand, and then pull it around over here on the outside. Now we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. This counts as a double crochet and 1 chain. And then yarn over, we're going to double crochet chain around 5 more times. So we kind of already did 1 here. And so now I've yarned over. I'm inserting my hook into the middle of the ring, yarning over again, pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through the last 2 loops. So there's my double crochet. Now I'm chaining 1. So you'll continue this now 4 more times around. So the center of your ring will have 6 double crochets, counting our starting chain, and 6 chains. So double crochet, chain, double crochet, chain. Now we have 2, 4, 5. So here's my last, here's my last double crochet and my last chain. So I'm going to pull my magic ring tight. This is the magical part. So just literally pull it until it's all the way tightened. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of our first double crochet. So this chain 3 counted as a double crochet and a chain 1. So we're actually attaching to the second chain in that like starting chain. So here's my slip stitch, and that's the end of round 1. So chain 3 again, Again, this is a double crochet and a chain 1. And now in every space around, we'll double crochet chain 1. So it'll be like an increase all the way around to give us a total of 24 stitches if you count the chains as stitches. So here's our first double crochet and chain 1. And then I'm going to go into the chain space here. So I've yarned over, inserted my hook into the chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over those and pull through those last 2 loops, and then chain 1. In this next one, this one's going in the double crochet. I'll double crochet again and chain 1. Now I'm in the chain space, double crochet, and chain 1. So just do this all the way around. When you're done, you'll have a total of 12 double crochets with 12 chains in between them for 24 total stitches in round 2. Alright, so let's quick double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 double crochets. So now I will join to my first double crochet with a slip stitch. And again, this is the second chain in that chain 3 that we started with. Cool. I'm going to pull out a bunch more yarn because this has been super annoying. All right, so now we're on to round 3, which for me, this was the last round of the base, and then I started building up the sides. So chain 2, again, this counts as a double crochet, but we're not going to do any in-between chains, so you just need that chain 2. Now I will chain 2 in the chain space, and by chain 2 I mean double crochet 2, that's my bad, so I'm double crocheting 2 in the chain space. Now I will double crochet 1 on top of the double crochet, double crochet 2 in the chain space, double crochet 1 on top of the double crochet from round 2, double crochet 2 in the chain space. So basically you're just going to follow this increase pattern all the way around. So it's 2 double crochets, then 1 double crochet. That's actually backwards though. We started with 1 double crochet. So you'll do 1 double crochet in the double crochet below, and then 2 double crochets in the chain space, and you'll do that all the way around the base. So you'll end up with 36 total double crochets. So go ahead and finish up that double crochet 1, double crochet 2 pattern. Again, you'll have 36 double crochets at the end of round 3, and I'll catch up with you there. So I'm down to my last 2 stitches in round 3. So I have 34 double crochets so far, and I'm going to end with 2 double crochets in this last chain space. Whoop. Okay. So now, just like before, we will slip stitch to the first double crochet, which in this case was a chain 2. And that's the end of round 3. So this is the base of your plant hanger. So, I'm like dumping dirt out. Okay, I'm going to take this plant out so that I can show you what it looks like without like spilling dirt everywhere, even though I already did it a little bit. Okay, so this should cover the base of the pot that you're making pretty closely. If it's a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, it's not a huge deal. But now we're going to start making this mesh portion that'll cover like the sides of your pot. And I'm going to quickly put all this dirt and like perlite back into my pot. Okay, so this mesh on our plant hanger is basically just chains and single crochets. So the first thing I'm going to do is chain 7. All right, and then I'm going to skip 3. So here's 1, 2, 3 double crochets. So I'll crochet a single crochet into the 4th stitch from my hook. And now I have my first loop. And as I go around, I'm going to end up with 9 of these. So again, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 chains. And then 1, 2, 3 skips. And here's a single crochet. So as you go around, you'll just chain 7, skip 3, and then single crochet. One, two, three. Single crochet. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So again, skip 1, 2, 3. Here's my single crochet. So you'll have 9 of these loops when you're done. Here's 1, 2, 3. So I'm down to my last couple loops. All right, so my last loop is actually going to look a little bit different. So, well, that's phrased a little bit wrong. It's going to look pretty much the same, but we're going to crochet it differently. So the reason for that is because we want to start our next row in the middle of one of these loops so that the next set of loops are kind of like brick laid on top. So we want like a loop here and a loop here and a loop here instead of ones that are right on top of these same stitches. So I'm going to chain 3 for this last one. And then I'm going to treble crochet. So to treble, it's basically the same as a double crochet, but I'm going to yarn over twice. And then I'm going to insert my hook into my first stitch. So basically where I joined my yarn to start this round, round 4. I'll yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops. So it's just like a longer version of a double crochet. But now I'm in the middle for the next round. So I'm where I want to be. Now we're on round 5. So here I am at the middle of one of these peaks or little loops, and I'm just going to kind of copy this row for a couple times until it can go all the way up the sides of my pot. So I'm going to chain 7. And then I'll crochet a single crochet into the middle of this next loop, so into the 4th chain. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll just go up here. I'm putting these single crochets literally into the chain on my plant hanger rather than into the chain space. If it was in the chain space, it could be kind of sliding around, and I want it to be secure. So here's my first loop from this next round. See how it goes from the middle of one to the middle of the other? So now I'll chain 7. And single crochet in the 4th chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's my single crochet. Again, this is going into the actual chain. So do this pattern around, but then when you get to where you started, we're going to do what we did last time, where we do half chains and half treble crochets. When we finish this round, we're going to have 4, I don't know why I'm saying 4. When we finish this round, we're going to have 9 loops again. Alright, so here I am at the last one, and I've already messed it up, of course, because I chained 7, but we only need to chain 3. So here's 1, 2, 3. And now I'll treble crochet into the top of the treble crochet from last time. Okay, so we've finished round 5, and row 6 and round 7 are going to be exactly the same as round 5. So go ahead and finish those up, and I will meet you at the end for round 8 to show you how we finish this up. So I'm finishing up round 7. And now I'm going to do like a dry fit on my pot. So this will stretch out a little bit from like the weight of your plant hanging. So mine looks pretty good. You can see that when it's stretched out, it basically covers all the sides. If that is not the case for your pot, like if you maybe have a taller pot than I have, then feel free to just add 1 or 2 or however many more you need rounds of this same thing. But I'm going to go ahead to round 8, which is where we start to close off our netting. So it's going to make the top straight so that we can crochet our single crochet border. So this is kind of finishing up the main portion of our plant hanger. So I'm going to chain 4. Here's 3. Whoops, lost a loop there. Here's 4. And then I'll single crochet into the fourth chain of the middle of the next loop, just like before. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the only difference here is that we're chaining 4 instead of 7. So here's 4 again. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see this is kind of making these like smaller triangles over here instead of a diamond. So it's just going to give us a straight edge for our top. 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll single crochet. Here's 4 again. And I'll single crochet in the fourth chain from that loop. And I'm just going to do this all the way around. So here's my last one, and I'll just crochet a single crochet into the top of the treble crochet from the last round. I'm going to slip stitch it to join. And then to start my next round, round 9, I'm going to chain 1. So then I'll just single crochet all the way around. You should have 45. So it's a little bit bigger than when we finished our base. And that's because I was making it for this pot where the base is a little bit smaller, like it kind of tapers as you get closer to the bottom. So that means I want my top to be a little bit bigger. So now I'll single crochet in that same chain where I joined it. And in each chain around. So again, I'll have 45 chains. And I'm actually going into the chains. You don't necessarily have to. You could crochet into the chains bases. I just thought it looked cleaner when I went into the actual chains, but it definitely does make it a little bit harder to crochet because you kind of have to like jam your hook into the chain itself. So go ahead and finish single crocheting around. Again, you're going to have 45 of them when you finish. All right, so I've finished all 45 single crochets going all the way around the top of my crochet plant hanger. Now I'm going to join to my first single crochet with a slip stitch. And now I'm going to prep for another row of single crochets. So I'll chain 1 and I'll single crochet in that same stitch. Here's 1. And I'm going to do 5. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I'm going to crochet a super long chain to make my hanger. So there'll be 3 total on here. Let me pull up my example. Oops, it's all jacked up now. But I'll have 3 long chains, and this is how I'll hang up my plant once I finish the plant hanger. So I chained 130. Technically, it doesn't matter how many you chain as long as you chain the same number for each one. So you might want a plant hanger that's like a little bit longer or a little bit shorter than mine. So use your best judgment. We're going to end up folding it in half though. So I chained 130, which meant that it was like half as tall as like half as long as it actually was, if that makes sense, because we're going to fold it over and then keep single crocheting. As you do this, make sure that your chains are pretty consistent sizes. If they're a little bit wonky or abnormally shaped, it'll make a big difference in the length of your chain since we're crocheting so many. So I try to like pull mine as tight as possible, tighter than I would do my regular chains if I was like starting a blanket or something. And that's just because I don't want big differences in sizes. Otherwise, we'll have to figure out how to fix that at the end. So go ahead, just make a long chain. Again, I did 130 for each one of these. And I like triple counted it, so it took a pretty long time because I was so nervous about like adding a couple extra chains accidentally and then messing with the length of these and having like a sideways hanging plant holder. So finish up your chain and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I've finished my super long chain. I chained 130 again, but you could do any number that makes your plant hanger the right length. And then I'm just going to single crochet in the next stitch and in the next 14 stitches. So there'll be 15 total single crochets between this loop and the next hanging loop. Okay, so here's my 15 single crochets and I'm going to make my second long loop. So just like the first one, I'm going to chain 130. Again, you can chain whatever number you want as long as it's the same for all three of your loops. If it's not the same or if your chains are really uneven, then there'll end up being some pretty significant differences in the length of your loops, which means that your plant hanger won't hang evenly. Like it'll be kind of tipped sideways a little bit, depending on which chains were longer. So make sure you're chaining consistent sized chains and the same number for all three of these loops. So I did 130 before. I'm going to do 130 again. So go ahead and make your long chain. And then I'll continue this row with you. So now I'll insert my hook, single crochet 15 just like last time. And 13, 14, and 15. So basically, I'm going to crochet another long chain loop. So 130 chains for me, same number as your other two for you if you're doing a different amount. And then I'll just single crochet in these last 10 stitches. And then I'll use an invisible join to join to the first stitch of the previous row. So go ahead and finish up round 10. I'll show you how to close it off, and then we'll work on adding our beads and crocheting the little hanger part, and then adding an optional tassel if you want that. Okay, so I've finished those last 10 single crochets, so now I'm back at the beginning, and I'll use my scissors to trim like, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches of yarn. And then pull my hook all the way through, and then join my yarn, and I'm going to do what's called an invisible join. So basically, here's my first single crochet, and I want to replicate the top of this on top of what's already there. So just like here, I'm going to put my hook through the top of the second single crochet. So here's 1, 2, and you want it to lay on top of the first single crochet. And then I'm going to put my hook into the top of the last single crochet from this round, the one that I just finished. And then pull it tight, but not too tight. Again, you want to replicate what the tops of these stitches look like. So this looks pretty good this way. It should be on top of that first stitch. So now when you look at it, you can't tell that there's anything different there. And then you'll just weave in your ends like usual. So I'm going to get over to the wrong side of my work, like the inside. And it go through the backs a little bit, and then I'll swing around and go through the exact same stitches, and this creates tension so that your crocheting won't unravel. And then if you crocheted too, or if you wove in too tight, you can kind of like stretch it back out again. I'm going to go over that same area a third time, and then I'll trim my yarn and start adding some decorations to my plant hanger. Okay. So you can kind of test it if you want to. I'll put my little pot into its holder. Oops. And test out my plant hanger. And since this pot is plastic, it's pretty light, but you can get a feel for how it will hang, although it will hang a little bit differently once you put your plant and the dirt in there, just because like this is just a super light plastic pot, so it doesn't really hold it down very much. But all right, so one of the things that I like to do is add some of these macrame beads to it. I use 2 different sizes, but they came in the same pack on Amazon. And oh, here's the last one. So these big ones are 20 millimeters, and these smaller ones are 12. But again, they came in the same pack. So basically, I'm just going to string these on, and you can kind of twist a little bit to get it through, or sometimes I use my tapestry needle to just like poke it through the hole. And I haven't tried these little ones on the top yet. I'm not sure if they'll fit. On the first one I made, I put them on the tassel. Okay, it looks like the little ones won't fit on the straps, so I'm just going to do 2 big ones per strap. or loop, hanging loop, whatever you want to call this part of your plant hanger. But you can use however many you want. On the first one I made, I only put one, but it's totally up to your preference. So begin by making a slip knot. You can pull it tight. This is going to go on your yarn in a minute. I just feel like it's easiest to start with it while you get your plant hanger set up. So you want to hold the 3 loops and then let your hanger fall so that you can kind of see how you want it. But you're going to hold it about 1.5 inches from the top, like 1 to 1.5 inches. And we're basically going to single crochet around this loop and then wrap the bottom. So here's what a finished one looks like. So you'll join yarn kind of like how you would join a new color. So you'll insert your hook, put your slip knot on, tighten it a little bit more if you need to, which I do. Pull it up, and then yarn over and pull through. So this is like attached now. I mean, it's not like attached, it literally is attached. And then you can kind of slide it down to where you want. I'm going to crochet 20 single crochets, but if you found that you kind of started in a spot that's a little bit less than ideal, it's not a big deal. You can just crochet more or less single crochets to even up the sides. But so now I'm going to treat this like it's the top of a previous row or something, or like my starting chain. So I just put my hook below it, tighten my yarn, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. So there's my first single crochet, and then mine ended up in a little bit weird spot. So I'm just going to scoot it down to where my other loop is. Now I'll repeat that, and I want to make sure I'm doing it really tightly, because otherwise it won't look very good. So there's 2. Oops, that one I went through a chain accidentally. And then kind of scoot your stitches together as you're single crocheting. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. And like I said, I'm going to do 20, I hope. It's possible it'll get a little bit messed up and I might need to add or remove some. Here's 5, 6, 10. And again, I'll kind of scoot these down to meet the other stitches. You don't want it to be too tight or it can start to kind of crinkle up, but you also don't want it to be too loose. So here's 11. I'm going to finish my 20 and then I'll hold up my plant hanger to just see if it's hanging evenly or if I need to adjust my hanging loop. So here's 20, I'll smush them together a little bit more. I'll pull my loop out just so I don't lose it when I'm holding it. Kind of even this out. And then I'll hold it up. So mine looks pretty even. So I'm gonna, you don't have to measure it necessarily, but I'm gonna cut about 2 feet, 24 inches of yarn. And I'm gonna pull it all the way through. And then I'll wrap this around the base of my single crochets to secure my loop. I usually like to go through the middle at least once. I can't explain why, but I feel like it makes it look a little bit better. I don't know if it helps me get it tighter or what. But I'm just going to keep wrapping until I've got maybe like 6 inches left. And I'm not going down very far. I'm kind of wrapping over this same like 1/2 inch area. And then once you're happy with your wrapping, you can join your yarn needle or tapestry needle and start to kind of weave this end through to secure it. All right, we'll call that done. Again, trim it pretty close to the base. And there's your hanger. So technically you can be done now if you want to. This is a very cute little plant hanger. It's got beads on it. It's got a hanger. Like, you're good to go. I added a tassel to mine. So if you want to keep watching the video, feel free, and I'll show you how to crochet the tassel. And by crochet, I don't mean crochet. I just mean make a tassel. But if you don't want a tassel, then you're totally done. So thank you for watching. And tassel people, keep watching. I'll show you how to do it. So to make the tassel, I'm going to start off by trimming like a maybe 6-inch piece of yarn and putting it at the top of my gauge ruler or whatever you're using for your tassel. Like I said, mine's going to be 6 inches long. So this is a 4-inch gauge ruler with some change on the sides for the borders. So it's like 6-ish inches. I'm going to wrap, whoops, this is being all weird. I'm going to wrap my yarn around my gauge ruler and around this scrap piece of yarn that I just trimmed about 20 times. So here's like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. You totally could do it more or less depending on how big you want your tassel to be. And that is just a personal preference. So before I pull it off, I'm going to tie a knot super tight. as tight as you can get it. And then you can just slide this off your template. Now I'm going to trim my yarn. And then kind of like fluff it. And then I'll cut a, I don't know, maybe like 12-ish inch piece of yarn and lay my tassel into it or on top of it. And then I'm going to tie this about an inch from the top of the tassel. It's not a huge deal how far it is, but it should be pretty close to the top. And then tie it really tight. I find that the tassels look cuter if I then weave this, like one part of my knot points up. So if I just put it under the loop to get it facing down, I find that that like looks a little bit better, but it's just a personal preference thing. So now, this is a little bit tricky to do, and you could definitely use a rotary cutter or something so you could do everything at the same time. But I'm just going to trim up the bottom of the tassel to make everything approximately the same length. It's never going to be like perfect, but we can try to get it close. So then I will thread my needle with the 2 strands at the top of my tassel. And I put on 1 big bead and 1 smaller bead. But again, totally up to you if you want to use beads or don't want to use beads. I think it looks pretty cute with the beads, personally. But I'm just going to tie a knot at the top of this to keep my beads pretty much in their place. Just try to make your knot go as close to the beads as you can. My knot is not quite the same size as the bead. So if I try, I can pull that bead over it. You could double knot it if you want to, but I'm going to secure it to my, like the base of my plant hanger. So it's not really going to matter. But if you had been more careful than me, then your ends, like from the top of your tassel, should be similar lengths. Mine are not because I guess I just did a bad job. But I poke this through the center of the base. So this is like where my magic circle was when we closed it up at the beginning. And I just pull it through. And then I just tied a knot. You totally could weave in the ends or something like that, but whatever. It's a little bit hard for this one just because my one end is a little shorty. But pull your knot tight, trim your yarn. You can weave in your ends or whatever if you want to, if you have any other end weaving to do. But otherwise, this is your whole plant hanger. So you can put it in your pot. I don't have an extra plant on me, so I'll just use this Brazil philodendron. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of plant names that I don't know how to say. But this is a philodendron Brazil. And again, this is a 5-inch planter. So now I can go ahead and hang this on like a curtain rod, to a hook on my wall. In my example pictures, I used like a stocking hanger on my plant shelf and just put it on there. So you do you. But thank you so much for watching me and learning how to crochet this plant hanger. Please make sure that you subscribe to the You Should Craft channel, tap that notification bell so you always know when new videos are coming out. And then also check out the You Should Craft blog for the full written pattern and other plant, well, not a lot of plant stuff, but other crochet tutorials and patterns. So thanks again.